The summer sun hung high over the suburban neighborhood, casting a warm glow on the familiar streets I had walked for years. As I stood in my kitchen, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the scent of pancakes sizzling on the stove. The routine felt comforting, yet an unsettling emptiness lingered in the corners of my mind. My husband was already at work, and our son had just left for college. The house felt quieter, almost too quiet. I flipped a pancake, lost in thought about how this new chapter of life seemed to stretch ahead like an unmarked road. Once filled with laughter and chaos, our home now echoed with silence. I missed the days when family dinners were lively affairs, filled with stories and laughter. Now, it felt like something vital had slipped away. I often found myself staring out the window, watching neighbors go about their lives while I stood still. The day of our son's farewell barbecue arrived unexpectedly fast. Friends and family gathered in our backyard under a canopy of colorful streamers and balloons. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement as everyone shared their hopes for the future. Laughter rang out as kids chased each other around the yard. Yet amidst all this joy, I felt an increasing disconnect from those around me. As I moved through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries and smiles, my gaze landed on my son's best friend, who had just arrived. He stepped into view with that easy confidence that always made him seem older than his years. It was strange to see him here as a young adult rather than just a kid who spent countless hours at our house playing video games and eating pizza. "Hey there," he said casually as he approached me, his smile bright against the backdrop of cheerful chatter. "Hi. It's good to see you," I replied, forcing a smile despite feeling slightly awkward. He lingered longer than expected, chatting about college life and his plans for the future while I tried to maintain composure. There was something disarming about his attention. He listened intently as I spoke about mundane things, the weather or how much I would miss our son while he was away. "Your son is lucky to have you," he said earnestly. "You've been like a second mother to me." The compliment caught me off guard but also stirred something within me, a flutter of warmth that felt both comforting and alarming. How strange it was that this young man could evoke such feelings in me after all these years of being a devoted wife and mother. The barbecue progressed with laughter and food flowing freely. As dusk fell, people began to leave one by one until only a few close friends remained. My heart raced when my son suggested they watch a movie together in the living room. The casualness of it all made me feel like an intruder in my own home. I busied myself cleaning up outside while they settled in for their film marathon inside. Yet every so often, glances were exchanged between us, his eyes lingering on mine longer than necessary before returning to whatever conversation they were having. When I finally retreated inside to grab more drinks, I found them sprawled comfortably on the couch, my son's friend leaning back casually while my son animatedly gestured toward the screen. "Hey. Want some popcorn?" I asked, trying to break through their bubble. "Sure," he replied enthusiastically as he turned his head toward me again. As I handed him the bowl, our fingers brushed briefly, a fleeting touch that sent an unexpected jolt through me. My cheeks flushed at the sensation. It was absurd yet undeniable how such a simple moment could stir feelings long buried beneath layers of family obligation and routine. "Thanks," he said softly as our eyes met again for just a heartbeat longer than appropriate before he returned his focus to my son. I quickly retreated back into the kitchen to collect myself amid clinking dishes and fading voices from the living room. What was happening? Why did this young man suddenly ignite something within me? The questions swirled like leaves caught in an autumn breeze, chaotic yet beautiful. Later that evening, after everyone had departed and quiet settled back into our home like an old friend returning from afar, I sat alone at our kitchen table nursing a cup of tea while reflecting on what transpired during that gathering. The warmth from my mug seeped into my hands as memories replayed like scenes from an old movie, his laughter ringing through my mind alongside moments shared between us throughout those years gone by. Could it be possible that this connection meant more? That perhaps there was something deeper beneath those innocent exchanges? A part of me recoiled at such thoughts. After all these years devoted entirely to family life, wasn't it wrong? Yet another part whispered enticingly about possibilities long forgotten, the thrill of being desired again after so many stagnant seasons spent nurturing others' needs before my own. As night enveloped us outside, the stars twinkling brightly above, I couldn't shake off thoughts lingering like shadows dancing across walls lit only by dim light filtering through drawn curtains. What if this newfound attention held implications far beyond mere friendship? What if there existed pathways leading down roads untraveled? With each passing moment weighed down by uncertainty yet tantalizing curiosity intertwined tightly together, I wondered what lay ahead for us both. Two souls seemingly bound by circumstance yet yearning for freedom amidst expectations imposed upon them throughout life's journey thus far. The air in the kitchen felt charged, a mix of the lingering warmth from dinner and the coolness of the autumn evening creeping through the window. I busied myself with washing dishes, trying to ignore the way my heart raced each time I heard footsteps approaching. The house felt smaller with him here, every shared glance and accidental brush of hands igniting something deep within me. "Can I help?" he asked, leaning casually against the counter. His presence was magnetic, drawing me in even as I fought to maintain my composure. "Just drying these," I replied, forcing a smile while my mind swirled with thoughts I dared not voice. He stepped closer, his shoulder almost touching mine as he reached for a towel. A moment passed where silence wrapped around us like a soft blanket, heavy with unspoken words. "I always liked this place," he said lightly, glancing around. "It's cozy." I nodded, grateful for the distraction from the tension building between us. "We've put a lot of work into it over the years. It feels like home." "Home can mean different things to different people," he mused, his gaze lingering on me longer than necessary. "Sometimes it's more about who you're with than where you are." His words struck a chord within me. Memories of laughter and shared moments flooded my mind, family dinners filled with love and warmth but also an undercurrent of something missing. The weight of expectation sat heavily on my shoulders. "What do you mean?" I asked softly, turning to face him fully. He shrugged slightly, an enigmatic smile playing on his lips. "Just that sometimes we find ourselves in situations that challenge our idea of home." I swallowed hard as our eyes locked for what felt like an eternity. In that moment, everything else faded away, the dishes piled up behind us, the fading light outside, and all that remained was this undeniable connection crackling in the air. "Like how sometimes friends become more?" I ventured cautiously. He stepped closer still, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. "Exactly." A rush of heat flooded my cheeks as his proximity sent my heart racing anew. The kitchen felt impossibly small now, there was no escaping this pull between us. My breath caught as he leaned in slightly, searching my face for permission or perhaps confirmation of what we both knew was happening. And then it happened, our lips met briefly but fervently, igniting a spark that sent shockwaves through me. Time stood still as reality blurred around us, all that existed were those fleeting seconds filled with longing and confusion. "What just happened?" I gasped as we pulled apart abruptly, reality crashing back into focus like ice water splashing against skin. I don't know," he stammered, stepping back as if burned by his own actions. "I shouldn't have." "No," I interrupted quickly, panic rising within me at the thought of what this could mean for both our lives, the chaos it could unleash upon everything I held dear. "We can't do this." But even as those words left my lips, a part of me yearned for more, a chance to explore these feelings without boundaries or consequences weighing down on us like chains forged by obligation and duty. "I understand," he replied quietly, his expression shifting from exhilaration to regret in an instant. "But it feels real." "It does," I admitted reluctantly before turning back to the sink to hide my flushed face from him. The rest of the evening passed in a haze. Laughter echoed through the house when our son returned from campus with stories about friends and classes that made me feel both proud and painfully aware of what lay beneath our surface interactions. An uncharted territory fraught with danger yet also intoxicatingly alive. As they chatted animatedly about their plans for the weekend ahead, football games and study sessions, I found myself drifting in thought again and again back to that kiss, electric yet forbidden, exhilarating yet fraught with risk. Later that night, when our son went to bed after a long day filled with excitement and chatter about college life ahead, I found myself alone again in the living room staring blankly at television shows playing out scenes devoid of meaning while thoughts circled relentlessly around him. How could something so simple bring forth such complexity? What would happen if anyone discovered our secret? Would they see it as betrayal or simply misplaced affection? In those moments alone where shadows danced across walls illuminated by flickering light, I pondered whether pursuing this connection might unravel everything familiar and safe about life as I knew it. Family dinners filled with laughter would turn into hushed conversations cloaked in secrecy. Love exchanged openly would become tainted by guilt lurking just beneath each shared glance or touch. The next few days were marked by an uneasy tension between us, a silent acknowledgement lingering like smoke after fire had burned out completely. Each encounter became charged with unspoken words hovering just beyond reach. Every shared laugh carried undertones laden with unsaid confessions waiting patiently beneath the surface, ready to erupt at any moment if given half a chance. Then came Friday evening. Our son had gone out for dinner with friends, a rare opportunity for quiet solitude where time stretched luxuriously before me like an inviting canvas awaiting paintbrush strokes full of color yet devoid of formality or expectation. As dusk settled over suburbia outside, casting soft shadows across familiar rooms, I found myself drifting toward familiar places once again, memories replaying vividly inside my mind while contemplating how far this connection might lead if allowed space to flourish unrestrained. With each passing hour spent lost in thought, a sense of urgency began bubbling up inside, urging me forward toward some unknown conclusion waiting patiently beyond horizon lines drawn by circumstance alone. When finally dusk turned into night, a knock echoed through stillness, breaking apart silence wrapping around everything tightly. It startled me back into awareness, reminding how easily life could shift unexpectedly without warning. Standing at doorframe peering out into darkness beyond, I hesitated briefly before opening wide enough, only allowing a glimpse at who stood waiting patiently outside under dim porch lights illuminating features half hidden within shadows cast by uncertainty looming large overhead. There he was, standing just beyond threshold, looking both hopeful yet anxious, eyes searching mine, desperately seeking answers only time could provide. "Can we talk?" he asked softly, breaking tension thickening air surrounding us both. Anticipation hung heavily between two souls yearning for clarity amidst chaos swirling all around. I stood there, heart racing, caught in a moment that felt suspended in time. The air was thick with unspoken words, and I could sense the weight of our shared secret pressing down on us. His eyes searched mine, and I struggled to find a response that wouldn't betray the turmoil swirling within me. "Can we talk?" he asked softly, breaking the silence that had enveloped us. His voice was steady yet tinged with an urgency I couldn't ignore. I nodded, unable to form words as we stepped into the dim light of the living room. The familiar surroundings felt suddenly foreign, as if they were part of a world I no longer belonged to. I glanced at the family photos lining the walls, snapshots of a life built on love and shared memories. Yet now, those images seemed to mock me with their innocence. How had I strayed so far from what I thought was my path? We settled onto the couch, an uncomfortable distance between us that felt insurmountable. My mind raced through 1,000 scenarios while his gaze remained fixed on me. I can't stop thinking about what happened," he said cautiously, his voice barely above a whisper. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "It was just a moment," I replied, trying to sound more resolute than I felt. "We shouldn't let it complicate things." But even as the words left my mouth, doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. Complicate? Or clarify, he countered gently. I mean, we both felt something. The truth hung in the air like smoke from a fire, thick and undeniable. Our lips met in that fleeting moment before everything spiraled out of control, igniting feelings that had long been buried beneath layers of duty and expectation. I can't do this, I said finally, my voice trembling slightly as uncertainty washed over me. What about my family? My husband? The mention of him felt like an anchor pulling me back to reality. He sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair in frustration. I'm not asking you to leave anyone behind, he said earnestly. But can't we just acknowledge what's happening between us? Just once? His plea resonated within me, a battle between loyalty and desire waged silently in my heart. Yet guilt gnawed at my insides like an insatiable beast, every thought of betrayal sent waves of nausea through me. Let's take it slow, I suggested tentatively, desperate for some semblance of control over this chaotic situation. We can keep things friendly, for now. His expression shifted slightly, disappointment flickering across his features before being masked by understanding. Okay, he replied softly, though it was clear he wanted more than just friendship. As we sat there in silence, the tension thickening around us like fog rolling in from the lake outside, footsteps echoed from the hallway, my husband returning home earlier than expected. Panic surged through me as I shot him a warning glance. He quickly composed himself but remained tense beside me. The door swung open moments later, revealing my husband with his usual jovial demeanor intact, a stark contrast to the storm brewing beneath our surface. Hey! You two look cozy, he exclaimed cheerfully as he stepped inside with bags from work hanging off his shoulders. Just catching up, I replied too quickly, my heart raced at how easily deception slipped from my tongue. He smiled at us both before dropping into an armchair across from us, oblivious to the undercurrents swirling around him. The mundane chatter about his day filled the room but did nothing to ease my anxiety. Instead, it heightened my awareness of everything unspoken between us three. I'm glad you're getting along, he said casually while flipping through mail stacked on the coffee table, a small victory for normalcy amidst chaos. My heart sank further when I overheard snippets of their conversation, plans for a weekend camping trip together without mentioning me at all, an exclusion that stung more than any harsh word could have done. Sounds fun. I forced out with a smile plastered on my face. Inside though turmoil churned wildly as jealousy mixed with confusion over where exactly this left me standing within our family unit. The evening wore on slowly, laughter echoed around us but felt hollow somehow, as if we were all actors playing parts rather than genuine connections being forged anew amidst shifting dynamics. Later that night, when everyone finally retreated into their respective rooms, the house fell silent save for muted sounds echoing through walls thickened by secrets kept hidden beneath layers of routine life. I lay awake staring at shadows cast by moonlight filtering through curtains, the weight of choices heavy upon me while thoughts spiraled endlessly around dilemmas unresolved yet pressing ever closer toward inevitable confrontation ahead. Morning came too soon. Sunlight streamed through windows casting warm rays across familiar spaces tinged now with uncertainty lingering like ghosts haunting every corner once filled only joy and laughter shared among loved ones. As breakfast began its usual rhythm, coffee brewing alongside sizzling bacon wafting aromas filling air, I caught myself stealing glances toward him seated across table engaged in conversation with my husband about mundane topics. Sports scores and upcoming events scheduled down calendar pages rapidly flipping toward future days ahead. But beneath surface pleasantries lurked deeper truths waiting patiently for acknowledgement, a reality neither could escape indefinitely without consequences looming large overhead threatening to shatter fragile peace we had managed thus far. After breakfast ended uneasily, we parted ways briefly before regrouping later that afternoon. Anticipation hung thickly around us both until finally found ourselves alone once more amid familiar surroundings. What are we doing? He asked suddenly, breaking silence again, It seemed questions never ceased pouring forth endlessly between us. These days filled only uncertainty regarding where paths might lead next. "I don't know," came my honest reply, laced heavily with vulnerability, spilling forth unguarded, now finally able articulate fears long buried deep within hidden recesses, mind held tightly closed until now. In response, he took step closer, bridging distance separating our worlds apart, feeling electric charge igniting atmosphere surrounding two souls drawn inexorably together despite everything else threatening pull them apart again. And then, in one breathless instant, our lips met again, igniting fire burning brightly deep down within hearts yearning for connection long denied or ignored previously. Yet even as passion swirled around us, enveloping entire universe outside, fading away into nothingness, I could not shake nagging realization clawing insistently at edges, consciousness screaming warnings louder than whispers echoing throughout empty spaces left behind, choices made a long way leading up this very moment, right here, right now. What would happen next? Where would this lead? Would it be worth risking everything built over years past just because two hearts dared defy boundaries set forth by society demanding adherence, conformity, instead true desires longing break free? Questions lingered unanswered, hanging heavy air, suffocating, slowly choking life out, possibilities remaining open still despite risks involved looming large ahead, threatening collapse under weight, truth hidden beneath surface finally emerging, ready confront reality. Waiting patiently just beyond horizon, beckoning forth change inevitable, stirring restlessly, yearning embrace new beginnings, waiting patiently unfold before eyes wide open, ready face whatever consequences lay ahead, no matter how daunting they might seem right now. The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the table. I busied myself with breakfast, trying to push aside the weight of my choices. The smell of bacon sizzling in the pan was familiar, comforting even, but today it felt like a thin veil over an unsettling reality. My heart raced as I recalled the night before, how we spent the night together, lost in a world that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. My son's friend had become a constant presence in our lives since he moved in. At first, it was innocent enough, a few shared meals and late-night conversations. But with each passing day, the boundaries blurred further. I glanced at the empty chair across from me, imagining him there, his laughter filling the space with warmth. I shook my head, trying to clear the thoughts swirling around my mind like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. As I poured coffee into my favorite mug, my phone buzzed on the counter. It was a message from a close friend who had sensed something was off lately. "Are you okay? You seem distant," it read. I hesitated before typing back, unsure of how to articulate my turmoil without revealing too much. I settled for a simple response, "Just busy with family stuff." The truth felt heavy on my chest. Secrets had a way of gnawing at you until you had no choice but to confront them. I took a deep breath and tried to focus on the mundane tasks ahead, laundry piling up in the corner and dishes waiting to be washed. Later that afternoon, while folding clothes in my bedroom, I heard laughter from downstairs. My son and his friend were reminiscing about college life, their voices carrying up the stairs like music. A pang of guilt shot through me as I recalled our last encounter, the thrill of stolen moments that now felt tainted by deceit. I couldn't ignore it any longer. My son's suspicions were growing. He had noticed our connection and commented on it casually during lunch just days ago. "You two seem really close." The way he said it made me uneasy. It was as if he could sense something deeper beneath our friendly facade. I decided to confront this bubbling tension head-on. As soon as they finished their game of video games, I called for them to join me in the living room. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Laughter faded into an uneasy silence as they exchanged glances. "Can we talk?" I asked, keeping my tone light but firm. "Sure," my son replied hesitantly. I looked at his friend. His eyes sparkled with mischief but also contained an intensity that made my heart race. "I want us all to be open with one another," I began slowly. "I know things have changed since you moved in. My son shifted uncomfortably on the couch while his friend leaned forward slightly, intrigued yet cautious. "What do you mean?" my son asked. "I just think we should be honest about our feelings," I continued carefully, gauging their reactions. "It's important for us all." The silence stretched out like an elastic band ready to snap at any moment. Finally, his friend spoke up softly, "I care about both of you." His words hung in the air between us like an unspoken promise or threat, depending on how one chose to interpret them. "Yeah," my son chimed in quickly but not without hesitation. "We're friends, right?" "Of course," I replied too quickly, feeling exposed under their scrutiny. After what felt like an eternity of awkwardness filled with forced smiles and nervous laughter, we managed to change topics back to mundane matters, school projects and upcoming holidays, but there was no disguising the tension that lingered beneath our attempts at normalcy. That evening after dinner, while tidying up the kitchen alone, my husband still at work, I found myself lost in thought again about everything that had transpired recently. Secret glances shared over dinner tables and quiet whispers exchanged late into sleepless nights. A sudden knock on the door broke through my reverie. It was him, the best friend, standing there with an uncertain smile that sent butterflies fluttering wildly inside me again despite knowing better than to entertain such feelings anymore. "I thought we could talk," he said simply as he stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, a gesture filled with both confidence and familiarity that made me blush against all reason. "About what?" I asked, feigning nonchalance while feeling every nerve ending awaken around him, an electric current coursing through me despite knowing this wasn't right. "About us," he replied quietly but firmly as if there were no other option left unspoken between us anymore, a silent acknowledgement hanging heavy between two souls drawn together by forces beyond comprehension or control. His words echoed within me, a siren call pulling me closer toward temptation once more despite knowing how dangerous such paths could lead if pursued recklessly without caution or consideration for consequences lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently for unsuspecting hearts willing enough risk everything they held dear. We stood there for what felt like hours before either one dared break eye contact first, finally gathering courage within myself after what seemed like eternity spent suspended between desire and consequence. I stepped closer toward him, wanting nothing more than surrender completely into this moment where nothing else mattered except raw honesty laid bare before each other's souls yearning desperately connect deeper than ever imagined possible until reality crashed down around us once more, reminding us both why such connections were deemed forbidden by society's standards set forth long ago. But then came another twist. A sudden realization struck hard amidst this whirlwind, swirling emotions threatening drown out reason altogether. What would happen if someone found out? Would they understand? Or would judgment rain down mercilessly upon everyone involved? With those thoughts racing through my mind, still buzzing from adrenaline coursing through veins electrified by proximity alone, we leaned toward each other, instinctively seeking solace within embrace only meant for lovers caught up amidst chaos surrounding them. But just as lips brushed against one another, a soft whisper barely audible escaped trembling lips, breaking spell cast upon us both, "This can't happen." And so we retreated back into silence once more, leaving behind unspoken promises lingering heavily within air thickened by tension wrapped tightly around hearts unwilling let go completely despite knowing better than allow ourselves venture down paths fraught danger, lurking just around corner waiting patiently ready pounce when least expected. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the table set for breakfast. I moved mechanically, pouring coffee and arranging plates. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, a reminder of the night before. As I stirred the sugar into my cup, my thoughts drifted to him, the way his laughter echoed in my mind and how it felt to have someone see me beyond the roles of wife and mother. "Mom, can we talk?" My son's voice broke through my reverie, pulling me back to reality. He stood at the doorway, his brow furrowed with concern. "Of course," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. "What's on your mind?" He hesitated for a moment before stepping into the kitchen. It's about Jake. The name hung in the air like a dark cloud. I've noticed he's been acting strange lately. My heart raced. Strange how? He seems distracted when he's here. Like he's hiding something. His eyes searched mine for answers I wasn't ready to give. I forced a smile, hoping to deflect his concern. He's probably just busy with school. You know how it is. Yeah, but it feels more than that. He crossed his arms defensively. You've been spending time with him too, right? Is everything okay? The question lingered heavily between us. I felt an urge to confess but swallowed it down. Everything is fine, I insisted, though my voice wavered slightly. Just then, the front door opened with a creak, and my husband stepped inside, holding a bouquet of flowers and a takeout bag from our favorite restaurant. Surprise, he announced cheerfully. The tension in the room shifted as he placed the flowers on the counter. He approached me with an affectionate smile that made my heart sink further into guilt. I thought we could have a little romantic dinner tonight, he said brightly. Sounds great, I managed to reply, though my mind was racing with conflicting emotions. As he began unpacking dinner items and setting them on the table, I felt trapped between two worlds, the warmth of family life and the thrill of forbidden affection that had taken root in my heart. Mom? My son interrupted again, his voice laced with uncertainty. Can you promise me you'll keep an eye on Jake? Something feels off. I promise, I said automatically, but inside I was crumbling under the weight of deceit. After breakfast, as my son left for class and my husband busied himself in another room preparing for our dinner date, I stole away to check my phone, hoping for some sign from him that everything would be all right between us despite this growing pressure. A text appeared, *, can we talk later? Something's bothering me, *, the message sent chills down my spine, it was from Jake. I stared at the screen in disbelief. What could possibly be bothering him? Did he sense our precarious situation? Or was there something more threatening looming over us? As evening approached and preparations for dinner continued in full swing, my husband humming happily while setting candles, I wrestled with thoughts of what lay ahead. The duality of my life felt suffocating, one moment filled with laughter and love while another pulsed with secrecy and desire. Dinner unfolded like any other evening. Small talk about work and school filled the air as we sat together at our dining table adorned with flickering candlelight. Yet every bite felt heavy on my tongue as I fought against rising guilt swirling within me like a storm ready to break free. Midway through our meal, just as laughter bubbled up over some shared joke about college life, a brief distraction from reality, my phone buzzed again. I need you, simple yet powerful words that sent shivers racing down my spine. What was that? My husband asked suddenly, glancing at me curiously as if sensing something amiss. Just a message from a friend, I replied quickly but felt his gaze linger longer than comfortable on me. His expression softened slightly as if reassured by my response but still held an edge of suspicion that gnawed at me throughout dinner. Afterward, while clearing dishes away together in silence punctuated by occasional glances exchanged between us, each one filled with unspoken questions, I couldn't shake off the feeling that this night would change everything if not addressed soon enough. As soon as we finished cleaning up and settled down on opposite ends of the couch, a familiar routine, it hit me, how much longer could I keep living this dual life? The weight of secrets pressed heavily upon me like an anchor threatening to drag me under if not released soon enough. Just then came another buzz from my phone, a reminder of impending chaos waiting patiently outside our carefully constructed facade. Meet me at our spot later? I glanced sideways at him, his eyes glued to some sports highlights playing softly on TV, but all I could think about was what lay ahead. Would it be worth risking everything for this fleeting connection? As minutes turned into hours spent lost within thoughts swirling around both men who held pieces of me captive, one representing stability while another ignited passion deep within, I couldn't help but wonder where this path would lead ultimately. Would tonight mark an end or merely serve as another chapter unfolding amid tangled emotions spiraling further out of control? With each passing moment ticking away relentlessly like time itself mocking every decision made thus far, it became clear, something had to give before all fell apart completely. The evening air was thick with unspoken tension as I prepared dinner. The familiar scents of roasted chicken and garlic filled the kitchen, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within me. As I stirred the sauce, I could hear my son's laughter echoing from the living room, his best friend's voice mingling with it, a sound that once brought comfort but now felt like a reminder of my divided loyalties. I caught a glimpse of them through the doorway, both carefree and oblivious to the weight of my secret. The sight stirred something deep inside me, a mixture of guilt and longing washed over me. My heart raced as thoughts of our last encounter flickered through my mind. We spent the night together. The memory haunted me, urging me to confront what I had allowed to happen. "Mom. Dinner's ready." My son's call snapped me back to reality. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself before stepping into that space where everything felt so precarious. As we gathered around the table, I forced a smile, attempting to mask my inner turmoil. My husband joined us shortly after, his presence adding another layer of complexity to the evening. He looked at me with warmth and familiarity, yet there was an underlying tension that neither of us acknowledged. "Did you guys have fun today?" I asked, hoping to divert attention from my own chaotic thoughts. "Yeah. We were just playing some video games," my son replied enthusiastically. "He's unbeatable at this one game." "Maybe you should let him win once in a while," I joked lightly, but my heart wasn't in it. The conversation flowed easily between them while I sat quietly, feeling like an outsider in my own home. Each laugh shared between them felt like a dagger piercing through my chest, every glance exchanged sent waves of guilt crashing over me. How had it come to this? Halfway through dinner, when the atmosphere seemed lightest, my son turned serious. "Mom, can we talk for a second?" My stomach dropped as he motioned for me to follow him into the living room. "Sure," I replied hesitantly. Once we were away from the table, he crossed his arms and looked directly at me. "What's going on with you and Jake? He's been acting strange lately." The mention of his name sent a jolt through me. Jake was not just any friend, he was someone who had become entangled in every aspect of my life in ways I hadn't anticipated. "What do you mean strange?" I managed to ask without revealing too much. "I don't know. He seems nervous around you now," he said slowly as if weighing his words carefully. "I just want to make sure everything is okay." A lump formed in my throat as panic rose within me. How could I explain what was happening without shattering his perception of our family? "Everything is fine," I insisted too quickly, hoping it would suffice. He studied me for a moment longer before nodding slowly but not entirely convinced. "Okay, just checking." Returning to dinner felt like walking on eggshells. Each bite tasted bland against the backdrop of unspoken truths hanging heavily between us. My husband chatted about work while I forced myself to nod along absent-mindedly. Then came another twist. A sudden crash from outside broke through our conversation like thunder rolling across an open field. We all jumped up instinctively and rushed toward the window. Outside stood Jake's car, its rear bumper crumpled against a lamppost nearby with no sign of him around it. My heart raced again, but for an entirely different reason now. What had happened? Before anyone could say anything else, I grabbed my jacket and headed outside without thinking twice about how it would look or what anyone might think. The cool night air hit me as soon as I stepped out onto our porch. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as dread settled in my stomach. I found Jake sitting on the curb nearby, his head buried in his hands, clearly shaken by whatever had transpired moments before. "Jake." My voice broke slightly as concern took over. He looked up at me with wide eyes tinged with fear and confusion, a stark contrast from how carefree he usually appeared around everyone else. "I'm so sorry," he stammered, shaking slightly as if trying hard not to cry. "What happened?" The question escaped before I could stop myself, urgency laced each word. "I lost control," he admitted softly while glancing back at his car before lowering his head again in shame. My heart twisted painfully at seeing him so vulnerable, instinctively moving closer despite knowing how reckless that might seem given our situation. I wanted nothing more than to comfort him somehow amidst all this chaos unfolding around us. "I'll help you figure this out," came out almost instinctively, a promise that felt both comforting yet terrifying all at once because deep down inside there lingered doubts about whether helping him would only complicate matters further between us or bring clarity instead. Just then, footsteps approached behind us. My husband stood there watching us closely with an expression unreadable yet unmistakably tense looming over him like storm clouds gathering on an otherwise clear day. In that moment everything shifted. The weight of truth began pressing down heavily upon me like never before. Secrets had consequences far beyond what any words could convey. Caught between two worlds, the life I've built versus this newfound desire threatening everything, I felt utterly lost standing there under those unforgiving stars twinkling above. What would happen next? Would either man understand where my heart truly lay amidst this tangled mess? Or would they both turn away forever, leaving nothing but shadows behind? The air inside the house felt thick with unspoken words and heavy emotions. I stood at the kitchen counter, staring blankly at the dishes piled high in the sink, a mundane reminder of my responsibilities. My heart raced as I thought about the conversations I needed to have. The weight of my decisions pressed down on me like an anchor, threatening to pull me under. The sudden ringing of my phone startled me from my thoughts. It was an old friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in years but who always had a knack for cutting through the noise. I hesitated before answering, unsure if I was ready to hear what they might say. "Hey. Long time no see," they greeted cheerfully, oblivious to my turmoil. "Yeah, it's been a while," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "How have you been?" After exchanging pleasantries, they asked about my life and how things were going with family. Each question felt like a gentle nudge toward honesty. "You sound different," they said after a pause. "Is everything okay?" I took a deep breath, feeling vulnerable yet strangely liberated by their concern. "I've been trying to figure some things out," I admitted cautiously. "Sometimes you need to take a step back and look at what you truly want," they said thoughtfully. "Life is too short to live in shadows." Their words resonated deeply within me, echoing what I had been wrestling with for weeks now. Could I really continue living this double life? The thrill of secrecy was intoxicating but suffocating all at once. As our conversation drifted toward lighter topics, I couldn't shake off the heaviness in my heart. The tension between duty and desire loomed larger than ever before. After we hung up, I stood still for a moment, reflecting on their advice. It was time to confront both men in my life, the husband who had always been there and the young man who had awakened something inside me that had long been dormant. The next morning dawned gray and overcast, mirroring my mood as I prepared breakfast for my family. My husband entered the kitchen with his usual morning cheerfulness while our son shuffled in shortly after, still half asleep. They chatted about plans for the weekend, plans that didn't include me, and each word felt like another brick added to the wall between us. "Mom, can you help me with some stuff later?" my son asked casually as he poured himself coffee. "Of course," I replied absent-mindedly while setting down plates on the table. As they ate together, laughter bubbled between them, a sound that used to fill me with warmth but now felt like an echo of what was missing in our family dynamic. My gaze drifted toward the window where raindrops began to streak down against the glass like tears escaping from within me. Later that day, after sending them off on their errands, silence enveloped the house once more. My heart raced again as memories flooded back, moments spent laughing and sharing secrets with his best friend when he would stay over during breaks from college. Moments that had transformed into something deeper than friendship without either of us realizing it at first. I picked up my phone again and stared at his name on the screen, so familiar yet so forbidden now. What would happen if I reached out? Would he be willing to meet? The thought sent shivers down my spine as excitement mingled with dread. With shaking hands, I typed out a message, "Can we talk?" It felt both exhilarating and terrifying. However long it took him to respond would feel like an eternity filled with uncertainty. A few minutes passed before his reply came through, "Sure." When? My heart raced as adrenaline coursed through me. This was it, the moment of truth was approaching fast. We settled on meeting at our local coffee shop later that evening, a place filled with memories of laughter and whispered conversations amidst pastries and fresh brews. As night fell and shadows crept across the suburban streets, every corner seemed darker than usual as uncertainty loomed large overhead like storm clouds gathering before a tempest. Arriving early at the cafe allowed me time to gather my thoughts. However, much time slipped away unnoticed until he walked through those doors, his presence lighting up the room despite everything else weighing heavily on us both. He spotted me almost immediately and made his way over. His smile brought back flashes of joy wrapped tightly around guilt, a reminder of everything we had shared yet could not openly acknowledge amidst glaring societal expectations. "Hey," he greeted softly as he slid into the seat across from mine. "Hey," I managed in return while attempting to mask how nervous I truly felt beneath layers of calmness. The conversation started innocently enough, discussing school projects and mutual friends, but soon turned more serious as we both skirted around what lay beneath those surface-level exchanges, feelings unspoken yet palpable between us like electricity crackling in air thick with tension. After several moments spent dancing around uncharted territory filled with unsaid words hanging precariously between us like fragile glass ornaments ready to shatter any second if touched wrong, finally breaking free from polite small talk seemed inevitable now. "I can't keep pretending this isn't happening," I blurted out suddenly before fear could stop me again. Vulnerability surged forth without warning like floodwaters breaking through barriers set long ago in place by cautionary tales told throughout life, experiences shared among friends over coffee cups filled only halfway each time due diligence demanded otherwise. His gaze softened, understanding flickered briefly before being replaced by uncertainty mirrored back at me. The same fear reflected within myself mirrored back toward him now too. "What are we doing?" he asked quietly after taking a moment longer than necessary processing everything swirling around us both right then and there together amidst crowded tables surrounding us occupied by strangers unaware of our turmoil hidden behind closed doors. "I don't know," came my honest admission, tinged heavily laden guilt intertwined throughout every syllable spoken aloud, finally reaching culmination point where truth could no longer hide even if desired most fervently. Still somehow silence stretched thin between us once more until finally broken again only by soft murmurs drifting past nearby tables filled elsewhere instead. Yet neither one willing nor able escape this moment anymore either way, regardless consequences looming ahead, growing closer, fast approaching, faster than anticipated, previously imagined possible beforehand, today, right here, right now. Finally gathering courage once more, pushing forward despite fear, holding tight grip upon heart pounding relentlessly against ribcage, demanding release soon enough, promised someday, maybe eventually, perhaps. "I want this." His eyes widened slightly. Surprise flickered briefly across face but quickly replaced again, swiftly masked behind thoughtful contemplation, settling deep within depths, gaze searching mine, seeking clarity, perhaps even reassurance, somehow still remaining uncertain, future held ahead, waiting patiently just beyond horizon line, drawn ever closer, slowly inching forward, gradually revealing truths hidden beneath surface layers long concealed away, safely tucked aside, neatly organized boxes stacked high. Upon shelves, forgotten dusty corners lived quietly away, silently observing world outside, passing by unnoticed until today, finally emerging, fully exposed, laid bare, raw, unfiltered emotions, unveiled, finally freed, unleashed, left vulnerable, open, wide, ready face. Whatever consequences awaited next, regardless outcome, inevitable, coming soon enough anyway, regardless choices made henceforth, thereafter, onward journey taken, forward, onward, moving ahead without looking back ever again towards past left behind. Never forgotten, always remembered, fondly cherished, deeply instead. And just then, everything changed forevermore. The air in the room felt thick, charged with anticipation as I faced them both. The weight of my choices pressed heavily on my chest, each heartbeat echoing the gravity of the moment. My husband stood to my left, his brow furrowed with confusion and hurt. To my right was my son's friend, his expression a mix of longing and uncertainty. I had invited them both here, hoping for clarity, but now I felt more lost than ever. "I don't understand," my husband said, breaking the silence that had settled like fog around us. "What's going on? Why did you want us to meet?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the storm of emotions swirling within me. "I need to be honest with you both," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "There's something I have to say." "Just tell us," my son's friend urged gently. His eyes were filled with an intensity that made it hard to look away. "We're here for you." I glanced at my husband first, searching for a flicker of understanding in his gaze. "I've been feeling disconnected from our life together," I admitted slowly. And in that space, something unexpected happened. The tension in the room thickened as I continued. "I've developed feelings for someone else." The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. My husband's face paled, and he took a step back as if physically struck by my admission. "Who?" he demanded, his voice rising with disbelief. "It's him," I said softly, pointing toward my son's friend. Shock washed over both men simultaneously, one in disbelief and the other in a mix of hope and despair. My heart raced as their reactions unfolded before me. "Are you serious?" My husband's voice was strained as he struggled to comprehend what I had just confessed. "Yes," I replied firmly, despite the tremor in my voice. "It happened when you weren't around, when everything felt so distant between us." My son's friend looked down at his feet, shame creeping into his features as if he bore some responsibility for this tangled web we had woven. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he murmured. "Neither did I said quickly, desperation creeping into my tone. "But it did." "You're choosing him over our family?" My husband's voice cracked like glass breaking under pressure. "No." The word burst forth before I could contain it. "This isn't about choosing one over the other. It's about finding out who I am outside of being your wife or a mother." Silence enveloped us again as they processed what lay bare before them, a truth that threatened to unravel everything we had built together over years. "I can't believe this is happening," my husband whispered finally, anguish etched across his face. "But we can work through this," my son's friend interjected suddenly, surprising me with his eagerness to mend things that felt irreparably broken. "Work through what?" My husband shot back bitterly. "You think there's any way back from this? You think we can just go back to how things were?" His words stung like ice shards piercing through warmth. They cut deep into the fragile fabric of our lives together, the life we had shared for so long without questioning its authenticity until now. "I don't know." The admission fell from my lips like a confession in church, raw and unguarded amidst judgmental stares from two men who meant everything to me yet now seemed worlds apart from understanding what lay beneath skin-deep desires and loyalty intertwined with love. The tension escalated palpably. Emotions swirled violently around us like leaves caught in an autumn windstorm, chaotic yet beautiful yet undeniably destructive. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," I whispered hoarsely as tears began streaming down cheeks stained by guilt and regret mingling together into one overwhelming torrent threatening to drown me whole if only given half a chance. Then why did you let it go this far? My husband asked quietly now, his voice devoid of anger but heavy with sorrow instead, a tone that echoed disappointment louder than any shout could ever reach. I didn't know how far it would go until it was too late. Each word felt like an admission of guilt layered atop another. A confession laid bare without pretense or facade, masking vulnerability exposed raw beneath harsh fluorescent lights illuminating every corner, hidden away behind closed doors previously locked tight against scrutiny or judgment passed down swiftly upon those who dared venture outside societal norms set forth long ago by generations past, unwillingly shackled by expectations deemed appropriate, acceptable, worthy even. As silence stretched between us once more, a chasm filled only by unspoken truths lingering just beneath surface tension, I caught sight of movement from across the room where shadows danced along walls painted warm hues reminiscent of sunsets fading softly into twilight, beckoning forth new beginnings yet unknown, still waiting patiently just beyond horizon line, drawn closer, inching forward, gradually revealing truths hidden beneath layers long concealed away, safely tucked aside, neatly organized. Boxes stacked high upon shelves, forgotten dusty corners, lived quietly away, silently observing world outside, passing by unnoticed until today, finally emerging fully exposed, laid bare, raw, unfiltered emotions, unveiled, finally freed, unleashed, left vulnerable, open wide, ready face whatever consequences awaited next, regardless outcome, inevitable, coming soon enough anyway, regardless choices made henceforth thereafter, onward journey taken forward, onward moving ahead without looking back ever again. Towards past left behind, never forgotten, always remembered, fondly cherished, deeply instead. And then came the twist, the unexpected revelation that shattered whatever semblance remained intact between us all. I can't be part of this anymore. My son's friend spoke up suddenly, determination flickered across features once marked by uncertainty, now steeled against fear lurking just beneath surface layers, waiting patiently, ready, strike hard when least expected. What do you mean? My heart sank at those words, each syllable cutting deeper than knife wielded carelessly without thought behind every action taken thus far, leading straight towards inevitable confrontation looming large ahead. This isn't fair, to you or him or me. He gestured between us both before continuing on resolutely, despite tremors evident throughout body, shaking visibly, betraying inner turmoil raging fiercely within, heart beating wildly against chest, desperate grasp, hold on to something, anything resembling normalcy amid chaos erupting all around, threatening consume everything, left standing upright, still holding ground, firmly planted, firmly rooted deep within soil, nurturing growth, blossoming forth life anew. I'm leaving. And just like that, the decision made echoed loudly, reverberating throughout space surrounding us, wrapping tightly around hearts already heavy laden, burdened down beneath weight carried far too long, hidden away, tucked safely aside, neatly organized boxes stacked high upon shelves, forgotten dusty corners lived quietly away, silently observing world outside, passing by unnoticed until today, finally emerging fully exposed, laid bare, raw, unfiltered emotions, unveiled, finally freed, unleashed, left vulnerable, open wide, ready face whatever consequences awaited next, regardless outcome, inevitable, coming soon enough anyway, regardless choices made henceforth thereafter, onward journey taken forward, onward moving ahead without looking back ever again. Towards past left behind, never forgotten, always remembered, fondly cherished, deeply instead. In an instant everything shifted. Reality crashed against dreams once held dear, crumbling pieces scattering across floor, shattered remnants reflecting shadows cast upon walls, illuminated brightly yet starkly revealing truths hidden beneath surface layers long concealed away, safely tucked aside, neatly organized boxes stacked high upon shelves, forgotten dusty corners lived quietly away, silently observing world outside, passing by unnoticed until today, finally emerging fully exposed, laid bare, raw unfiltered emotions, unveiled, finally freed, unleashed, left vulnerable, open wide, ready face whatever consequences awaited next, regardless outcome, inevitable, coming soon enough anyway, regardless choices made henceforth thereafter, onward journey taken forward, onward moving ahead without looking back ever again. Towards past left behind, never forgotten, always remembered, fondly cherished, deeply instead.